Today I'm showing you how to get my signature flat cake layer. This is what happens to a lot of people that don't use cake strips. You get a domed cake, it's darker and harder on the outside, and it's not flat and fluffy on the edges. You really want a nice moist cake that's moist through and through without having to cheat and pour sugar water on top. I don't do that because my cakes are moist. Anyways, let's get started. Okay, there's a couple different ways to do this. One, buy some cake strips. These are just fabric strips, and there are tons of companies that make them. Mine are from Wilton, and I'm not getting paid to say that, although I should be. So anyways, I like the set because they move. So you can do a 9-inch cake, an 8-inch cake, a 6-inch cake, and you just, adjust. Then you just dip them in water, and you're going to cover the outside of the pan with that. But what if you don't want to buy some? What if you're handy or you just don't feel like buying extra stuff? Then you can make your own using tin foil and paper towels, which is what I did for like years, and I'm going to show you that too. When you're making your paper towel tin foil situation, you're going to use a pan and basically figure out the length of the pan on the exterior edge. You can do that just by wrapping paper towel around it. That doesn't have to be exact, it could be a bit over. More than enough, totally good. Wet the paper towel and wring it out so it's not totally soaking wet, but still wet. Then, the hard part is to unfurl it since it's kind of wet now. And we're gonna fold the paper towel. Fold it so it's like about 2 inches. Now for the tin foil, which is super crinkly, so I'll say this first. You're gonna get enough tin foil so that you have like maybe 2 inches on either side free. Put the paper towel on top and then start folding. Basically, you wet the paper towel and now you're wrapping it in tin foil, which will hold the moisture in during baking. That's it, you're done. Now you have your homemade tin foil and paper towel baking strip, and it was basically free. Let me show you how to wrap it around and then we'll get to the fun part. So just place your pan sideways, wrap the tin foil around it, and then crimp the edge a few times so that it holds its place. If yours is way too long, go ahead and cut it, it's not a big deal. And then just fold the edge underneath so that it is kind of like really in place. You don't want it to slip off. Fabric version works exactly the same way. I like to soak them for a while so they really get wet. So soak, you'll see the water get absorbed, and then after a few minutes, just wring it out. Leave some water in there, but you just don't want them sopping, dripping wet. After you're done, apply to the pan, and you're ready to pour your batter in. If you're wondering why cakes dome in the first place, let me tell you, it's super fun. Okay, so when you put the cake in the oven, the outside bakes faster than the inside because it's exposed to the heat of the oven, where the inside is insulated by the cake batter surrounding it. So what happens is that the outside bakes first. The moisture goes away, it forms its little cakey texture, and it's frozen, while the inside bakes slower and continues to rise, which is nice in that it's nice and fluffy and the outside is burnt, but we want a uniform bake. So how do we do that? We do that by cooling the outside of the cake with water. So you use something that'll hold water onto the outside of the cake, and then you'll get flat cake layers that are really fluffy on the outside, not caramelized, not dark, like almost like magic. Okay, so for demonstration purposes, I'm gonna make 3 cake layers. One with the fabric strips on, get it on tight. One with my homemade tinfoil version, and one will be sacrificed, and it makes me so sad to do this, with no cake strip. So it's our control, and you're probably gonna see some doming and some kind of crunchier edges, which I hate, but it's just to show you that's how much I care. All right, making my favorite vanilla cake. So as a bonus, you can make this recipe and enjoy like the most moist and delicious vanilla cake ever. Okay, starting off by sifting our dry ingredients. 1 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 heaping teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 heaping 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. 1 cup of granulated sugar, and like a generous pinch of salt. Sift it up. Let's give it a nice sift. Sifting's nice because you make sure that there's no lumps, and it also pre-mixes things, so you're extra sure there's no big hump of leavening agent hanging out anywhere. We're gonna give this a quick whisk and set aside. For the wet ingredients, I'm adding in 1/2 cup of sour cream, which adds a lot of moisture, 1/2 cup of milk. I'm using 3 egg whites for this recipe. You can totally use eggs whole if you want, but for a vanilla cake, I love it to be nice and light and not a yellow cake. Some people love yellow cakes though, so if you do, go ahead and use the whole egg and have the sour cream. 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and now 3/4 of a cup of basically melted butter. You can melt it all the way if you want, I don't. I'm gonna give it a nice whisk, and we're almost done. All right, this is whisked up. Now we're gonna combine and we're done. But first, I have to prep my pans. When I prep my pans, all I do is butter and flour them. That's all you need. Then kind of even it out with my fingers. This works really well if you're using harder butter. Mine's room temperature though, so just a word to the wise. There are lots of different cake release sprays you could do too, but those are not like natural ingredients, so I would skip those. And now for my last pan, the control. I feel so sad. It's like throwing a cake away because it's not gonna be nice and fluffy on the edges like it should be. Grab a little bit of flour and just kick it around in the pan so that it coats the butter. Now we're gonna combine our wet and our dry and give it a nice mix. To get those perfect even layers, I'm actually gonna take the cake strips off, pour the batter in, and then measure it out with a kitchen scale to make sure each weighs the same. Then put the strips back on and then bake them. Now we're reattaching our cake strips to 2 of the pans, and they're gonna go into the oven. I will tell you that sometimes when you're using cake strips, you have to increase the bake time a bit because you're cooling the outside, so just give it a few more minutes. Just take it out, test the center to see if it's springy, and you can also watch the edges because they should be pulling away from the sides. These are gonna go into the oven at 340 Fahrenheit for about 35 to 40 minutes depending. Okay, so my cakes are out of the oven, and I have to tell you, look how sad this is. This is the naked one without the cake strips. It's all, you see how brown and stunted and low and not happy it is? Let's take it out here. Yeah. Look at that color. I mean, it smells good, but do you see how this is like, it's like not as fluffy as it should be. Like, look at this dome. Do you see that dome? That's not cool. You have to like cut it down and it's like a waste. Now you have crumbs. Okay. Sorry I sacrificed you. Next, the Wilton cake strips. So you can see, I'll flip it over so it'll be fair. Here. So now you should be able to see nice flat layers, crazy dome, not cool. And here we have our tinfoil version, and you can see it baked up nice and flat and it's still really soft. So both ways work really well. I'm gonna tell you that the tinfoil one doesn't last forever. You get like 5 bakes and it kind of disintegrates. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is the naked version, and you can see, like, I feel it. I don't know if you can see how like hard the edge is. This is the cake strip version, and this is the other cake strip version. Whether or not you're gonna buy cake strips, make your own out of tinfoil or fabric or whatever else you want, I hope you give this technique a try because it really improves the quality of your bake. Your cake will rise up more, it'll be softer, and you'll have a nice flat top, which is so easy to decorate with. No more cutting. Thanks for watching, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe.